There is nothing more harmful to life than fear, or I should say, living with fear, because it impacts us not only in the working world, in what we aim to achieve materially, but also in a spiritual sense as well when it comes to understanding our true nature and who we are at a deeper level. Because recognizing our fears and with it understanding how to move past them, or maybe through them, is one of the biggest catalysts continuously in my life. And I think it can be in yours as well. Fear is the only issue, and this all stems from what many of our issues stem from, is the ego. This identification, this sense of self, of all our fear, essentially originates from the idea of, I know what I am now, or I know what's happening here and now, and this discomfort of the unknown, of change, is what scares me. And I don't want to step into that. We, in our hearts, might want to dive into that, to take chances, to attempt new things. But at the core, the ego doesn't want any of these things. Because all the ego really wants as its own self-imposed identity that we have kind of subconsciously created is to continue knowing what it is, and any deviation from the norm, any sidestep into a new path, or any unpredictable decision, something we haven't done before, make the ego less comfortable with it. It's creating these new waves, so to speak, on the relatively calm surface of what we call identity. And the ego is always upset by this. Basically, every time we challenge what our self is, what we consider ourselves to be, or who we consider ourselves to be, fear crops up because it doesn't want to challenge it. Very few people want to challenge what they know, and that's why many people can live and work one job for their entire lives, staying in their hometown, never leaving, never doing anything different, never looking into themselves, never researching different philosophies or ways of thinking or political views. It's all just what already has been. Many people are taught, you could say, to live a certain way or to be a certain type of person, and that is who they accept, because any deviation from that creates uncertainty, and with uncertainty comes fear. And so one of the most liberating and powerful things we can do, and the first step really to moving through fear, is just understanding this truth and accepting it. Saying, okay, I see that the resistance, I have to, whatever I want to learn about or discover or try or work towards, I see that resistance, that uncertainty, that discomfort is rooted in the fear of not knowing what comes next, that the fear of difference, of challenge, of confusion. We have to learn to reframe that. Instead of seeing it as something daunting, of worrying, of, oh no, I have to think on my toes, I have to act quickly, I have to be able to make in more information that I'm used to. Instead of seeing that in a negative light, the most empowering things that I have ever done, and I hope you can learn to do from this video, is to try to see the discomfort, the change, and the unknown in a positive light, in a light of excitement. Treating this life as a game in which it is, because we are the infinite source playing these human roles, and it really is a game if we allow it to be. It can be something playful, joyful, and incredible. So one way of doing that is, instead of allowing fear to be the base of our response to things when it comes to changes, is to say instead, no, I would like to approach these unknowns with excitement, with ambition, with a curiosity that maybe I haven't had since I was a kid. Because only when we get set in who we think we are does it turn from curiosity and excitement into that fear and worry. When we are little, all these things are happening every single day. And so we are never afraid of new things. We are never afraid of stepping outside the box. We are never afraid of trying things out, of trying to understand it more or discover more, to create more. But as we get older and we kind of lock ourselves into this identity in which we think ourselves to be, it becomes a much more solid thing, a real thing, or one thing that we perceive is real. And so all those new experiences, those new ideas, and those chances we once took before that we were not really that scary. Well, now they are frightening because I haven't done that in such a long time. And that's why I think in the modern world, if you want to change your life, you have to be able to accept that you must try new things and you must do things with that fear, but try to transform it into the joy of challenge. As an example, if it's scary for you to sit down and talk to a camera, well, instead of sitting down and going, okay, this is terrifying, this is horrible, and going into that experience with that fear as a base layer, you try instead to reframe it. For a moment, pause and take a breath and say, okay, I will sit down and see this as a challenge that I'm excited to partake in. And just telling yourself that, just deciding to see it as an exciting challenge rather than detrimental fear you partake, really it shifts your entire energy around trying that task or doing that thing. And it makes it something you are much more up to approach, not just in that one attempt, but in the future attempts as well. Because again, fear is the only issue in everything. And this goes from inner work as well, not just in the material world. If I'm scared about meditation or I'm scared about these new philosophies I'm learning, they seem overwhelming. Well, they are mainly only overwhelming because they challenge the status of what we already know. If I have a philosophy or a religion or a way of looking at the universe, anything that goes against that, or you could say is different, the ego takes as a challenge to itself. It takes as an attack on what we already knows. And so it wants to resist that. It's scared of that because it creates change. And it's forced us to see in a new light, to open up our advantage, our perspective, our new things. So when you go into things and we start learning, if you notice yourself, this is one thing that really helps me a lot. If you notice yourself when you start to learn new things or start to discover new things, they are instantly a bit discomforting or disconcerting. That's the fear of what we already know being challenged. It's not those things inherently bad or wrong, which is oftentimes how it's perceived through certain religions. It's just that it's so different. We don't have the frame of mind to understand it the way we understand what we already know. And so, as a reaction, we use fear to stay away from it. Well, no, that's not what I already know. That's far too different, and I don't accept it immediately. And we push it away. Instead, try doing this. When you read something or you start discovering new practices, you start meditating and you feel that discomfort, that worry, that fear, that unease, which is arising from challenging of what we know ourselves to be. I want you to simply sit with it. And instead of allowing that kind of negative, instant worry or disgust or fear about it, simply say to yourself, why am I resistant to it? What about it is challenging what I already know? What about this new way of thinking, this new way of acting, or new practice that I'm partaking in is causing me to be afraid of? What subconscious thing is causing me to be afraid of it? We oftentimes don't ask this. We simply say, no, it's scary, or it's different, or it's wrong. And we walk away with it that fear win. If I start meditating and I start feeling instantly fearful by it, maybe that's because I haven't had the time to sit with myself and be comfortable just being in the moment. And so many excuses the mind knows that on subconscious level is pushing away from it, causing resistance to that. So although I may feel like the immediate reaction is the correct one, it's actually the opposite. That meditation might be deeply needed. It's just the unconscious mind trying to fight it because it's different from what we already experienced. Many people would rather live a life of known discomforts than try to approach new things or live a better, healthier, more mindful life that relies on temporary unknowns. Most people live lives of quiet desperation, and that's only because of fear. I truly believe if people could overcome their fears or just step into that discomfort a bit, and sit with it, question it, embrace it, try to transform it. It will change so many lives around the planet, and it has changed mine and many people I know.